Vishayati. So he's talking about that person who knows. So really, all this series of verses refers to a jnani. But with the fact that you said it refers to all of us, if you say, that means it shows Karma Yoga also is capable of giving you that confidence, that vision. So therefore, you're saying Karma Yoga Vishishyate. You're saying it is important. Karma Yoga is important. Because you're saying it feels as though he's talking to you, right? Yeah. So either we are jnanis or we are karma yogis. These are the only two options available. And so, yeah, so you can say that. Swabhavastu pravartate nadate kasyachit papam. Yeah. So yeah, see, 15 refers to Atma, really speaking. Vibhuhu. Says papam and punyam does not touch Atma. So a person who knows that. So it doesn't really refer to either a jnani or a karma yoga. It refers to Atma. And a person who knows that, of course, is unaffected by punyam and pap.
The Sanskrit, the second line, ajnane navritam jnanam tena. So here the tena is visheshanam for ajnanam, right?
Yeah, because tena muhyanti. It can't be jnanena muhyanti. It has to be ajnanena muhyanti.
Same thing with verse 16, the second line, tesham is visheshanam for jnanam, right?
No. Tesham is a plural. Jnanam is singular. So, tesham. So, yesham nashitam atmanah. For those. Yesham, tesham. So, for those for whom that self-ignorance is destroyed by knowledge of Atma, for those, tesham means for those people, then adityavat jnanam, etc. Yeah. Tesha means for those people.
Okay, namaste.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Ani.
Unmuting, yes, okay. Namaste, Guruji. So we have, Buddhi, Mana, Chitta, and Ahankar as the four, let's say, Chetas compartments or constituents, whatever. Now we discuss Swabhav today. So is Swabhav Ahankar, or is Swabhav different from all of these four? Or is Swabhav Guna Guneshu Vartante? Where does Swabhav fall there?
Swabhavaha here refers to gunaha. So everything is made up of sattva, rajas, tamo guna.
True.
Whether it is chittaha, whether it is ahankaraha, whether it is memory, intellect, mind, the emotional faculty, all that, whatever you take, it's made up of these three gunas. And they have a particular role to play. Sense organs have particular roles to play. And so it refers to that nature of these things to do what they are supposed to do. To do what they are good at doing.
So the gunas, they are not considered to be permanent part of one's chetas. They come and go. Is it not? Because we say that they interact amongst each other, and Rajas, Sattvam, Tamas, sort of, we talked about that in one of the classes earlier. So are all the three gunas then part of the Chetana? How does that, then it's kind of expanding the model a little more, is it not?
Yeah. So what is the nature of sense organs? What is their job?
They have a job, yes, to perceive. Let's say to perceive.
To perceive, and that to only perceive a particular portion of
correct.
what can be perceived.
Correct.
So each sense organ provides something very specific, and then the mind processes those things.
Correct.
So sankalpa vikalpa mikam manaha, like that.
Manaha.
Mind is defined,
Yes.
So
Nischayatmika buddhi.
so buddhi is that which is able to decide, which is able to remove conflicts, which is
Yes.
able to challenge, which is able to deliberate, etc. So we are dividing this brain, okay, the functions of the brain into roughly these 3 or 4 compartments.
Yes.
But regardless, those are the functions. Everybody has those functions. Every human being is
Correct.
endowed with those functions. And so to some with more extent, some to a lesser extent. And so swabhavaha. So it is a nature. It is a nature of the mind to doubt. Swabhavaha. It is the nature of the mind to doubt.
True.
You don't have to tell, you don't have to tell the mind to doubt.
Correct.
Nature of the mind to doubt.
Yes.
It's the nature of the intellect to decide.
Yes.
You don't have to tell them every morning. You don't have to train yourself in decision making. No, we don't have to. We may be poor decision makers. That's a different thing. But we know that decisions have to be made. So their swabhavaha means their nature. Their nature. It comes, yeah, that's the way to look at it.
Okay. So inherent into all the faculties of the mind. Is that a way of sort of resolving it?
Correct.
Okay.
Inherent. Correct.
Inherent. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Now everything is mithya. So therefore, but everything has a function. Everything has a role to play. And so that role is called swabhava. Yeah, Anjali, you had a question, I think.
Namaste, Guruji. I have a question I'm almost hesitant to ask, so please forgive me before I ask this question. We're reading here and we're talking about the role of Atma or the non-role of Atma. A question just popped in my head, and I'm thinking then, why Atma? Why is Atma a part of all this? Because Atma is just there. It's there, it comes when, I'm assuming we're born and we die, it goes, and it has no impact. What is impactful is how we do life and the knowledge. And so I hope it's not a stupid question, but it just popped in my head and I'm thinking, why? I don't understand, so please, if you can shed some knowledge on that.
Yeah. So we are all, we lead a life and we do so many things, and we study so much, we know so much, and we know what's important, we prioritize. So like this, life moves on and on and on. Now, Vedanta, in my opinion, is a very practical subject. Okay, because it addresses my fundamental problem. Okay, so we have to talk a little bit about Vedanta. And what is my fundamental problem? It's not that I'm not wealthy, I'm not intelligent, I'm not healthy. Those are all manifestations of some fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem is I'm not happy. So I'm not adequate. Something I'm restless. I'm not good about. I'm not happy with myself. Okay, something is not right. And I keep setting things right constantly from morning to evening. I keep setting things right. That's what we do, right? Everything we do can be classified into setting things right. Either it is about setting things right in my body, or with my family members, or with my house, or with my car, or with the things I own. So I change the world to suit me, correct?
Yeah.
And when it suits me, then I'm happy. But the things are constantly changing. Nothing remains the way it is. That's a problem. And immediately I'm back to square one. And then I go on repeating the same thing because that's all I know. And I keep doing this. And we read these magazines and investment and this and that. They keep regurgitating the same thing. And then Well, this is same stock market and same this, same that. So it goes on and on. Now, so finally, I asked the question, hey, will I ever be happy? That question can arise. And if that question arises, then Vedanta really comes like a breath of fresh air, because it talks about that fundamental problem. Number one, right? It talks about that fundamental problem, like a psychologist does. A patient comes to you, you being a psychologist, and talks about a lot of things, but finally you kind of nail down, okay, what exactly what is bothering this person, right? And then you give some clues to the patient, to your client, right? And I think this is where the problem is. And then he or she appreciates what you say, thinks about it, and then suddenly a transformation can happen, correct? Because you're giving them some tools. And so you can see how psychology kind of tries to address some of those fundamental issues that we might have. Like that, the Vedanta goes even beyond that fundamental psychological level, mind, and then say mind also depends on something else, okay, for what it is. Mind is not independent, okay. And like in deep sleep, there's no mind at all, really speaking, and the mind is gone. Deep sleep, mind is gone, intellect is gone. They say the king and the beggar are identical in deep sleep. The king does not know what a vast kingdom he or she has, and the beggar does not know what a life he or she leads. Both are happily sleeping, correct? So then this happily, how can the beggar sleep happily? How can the king sleep happily with so many problems? He wakes up with problems. And how can he be happy? Well, if you can be happy with all your problems, then what does Vedanta say? What you say is a problem really is not a cause for your unhappiness. Because if it were a cause, then you should not be happy. Even for a moment, you should not be happy. I can list a lot of problems in my life today at this very moment. All of us can list. Okay. If I have so many problems, how can I laugh at a slapstick joke? During that period, I am happy. Correct? There are moments of happiness we all enjoy. How can I enjoy a moment of happiness with so many problems in front of me? How? If I claim that I have so many problems, therefore I cannot really enjoy life. Okay, if I claim that, then somebody will tell me, then how come I saw you happy 5 minutes ago? You were playing with your grandchildren and you were very happy. What happened? So happiness comes and goes. When happiness goes, I'm unhappy. Then happiness visits me for a while, and then again I become unhappy. This is the idea. This is what Vedanta is analyzing. And Vedanta says this happiness that you're talking about, no object in this world can give you that happiness. No object has a property of happiness. Okay. Then how come I'm happy? Well, it has to be something inside me alone. It has to be my own nature. Otherwise, this happiness is impossible. You can't buy happiness. You can't smell happiness. You can't borrow happiness. Nothing. That is why somebody can be happy without anything, and somebody can be sad with a lot. Correct? And so therefore, then this analysis slowly drills down to, then where is this happiness coming from? Then this discovery of Atma happens. That why this Atma, the question you asked, well, it's because of that Atma that I can experience happiness. Okay. External situations have triggered that happiness. Okay. When I enter my new home, I feel happy. Well, the new home has triggered that happiness, but it's not a cause for your happiness. I confuse it to be a cause of my happiness. It's a trigger, like somebody triggers an anger in me, frustration in me, disappointment in me, or whatever. So therefore, this happiness is such a thing. And so Atma becomes important because Atma, which happens to be myself, not the self that I'm confused about, not this body, this mind, about which I have a lot of ideas and problems. Okay, I don't like my body, and my body is giving me problems and problems. There is no reason why I should like my body. Okay, and so that Atma cannot be the body. Then who is the Atma? That question will arise. And so the Atma becomes very important in this analysis. Okay. And that Atma is not some particle sitting somewhere in my heart or in my head. It is myself. Myself means what? Then we have to ask the question, who am I? Convert the question, who is Atma, to who am I? Correct? Who am I? Who am I becomes very important because right now I consider myself as this limited personality which has accomplished so much, which has done this, done that, did not do this, did not do that. And I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a grandfather, grandmother, like this. This is my description. When somebody asks me, who am I? I'm going to give a big list, my resume. Shastram says you are not your resume. Okay. Can we handle that? And that's a breath of fresh air for many of us because then it says, okay, I can be somebody other than what I've accomplished. I can be somebody other than this body. I can be somebody other than this mind. So Atma becomes very important, Anjali. And so that's the journey we are going through. And what is that Atma? And how can I separate this body from Atma? How can I separate this mind from myself, Atma? How can I separate my sadness from this Atma? How can I separate my emotions from this Atma? It's not some kind of a detachment where you really go into a sense of denial and so, oh, nothing is happening to me. No, not that. We are objective. This is actually a science of objectivity. If you say, then I will say Vedanta is the science of objectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting because as you're saying that, I'm thinking that instead of it's actually a responsibility, because when you talked about for example, object cannot give you happiness, it has to be inside. So being able to understand that and accept that and really being okay with that, and then it come, you spring from there, what is inside. So and you're right, in psychology we talk about the idea of it's what's inside of you that and it's interesting you talk about sadness, and I remember it flashed in my mind when my dad passed away, maybe like 40 years ago, right? There was so much sadness and grief and hurt, and my older siblings and my aunties and uncles were coming into town, and when I saw them, each of them, you get this happy feeling, and then I felt guilty because I'm thinking, my father just died, I'm feeling sad, but how could I also be happy? And afterwards, as I studied, I understood that aspect of it, but that is such an important thing to understand, that it's within us, and that those capability, and yes, it's, and what you just said, it's like this explosion of knowledge in my head, because it's extremely freeing when we get there. And I'm not anywhere close to getting, where I have to be, but doing that journey and understanding that journey is there, and being okay with that journey, and anticipating and enjoying and looking forward to that journey, because that freedom, that enlightenment is there. It's very powerful. Thank you so much. That makes a big difference. And I'm thinking also as we're talking about knowledge, as you're explaining chapters, verse 16, and you you talk about knowledge and how it reveals object previously covered in darkness. I'm thinking that when we learn something, as you're talking to us, as you're educating us, we can't just read it, but we have to feel it, we have to digest it, we also have to apply it. That's when knowledge becomes real in us. I mean, from my perspective, that's what I'm thinking for myself.
Yes, correct. Definitely. And keep asking those questions. And it's not, there is no such thing as a stupid question here, because you asked a question, why Atma? It's not a stupid question, because that is an important question. All of us should ask the question, why Atma? Because we've studied, we've taken a lot for granted now. No, we should not be taking anything for granted. So why Atma? We all should answer that question. So I think you keep asking, Anjali, they're very good questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Rishi.
Jay Kumarji,
Yeah, Ramesh.
can I ask a question? Yeah. When you're explaining one of the stanza here, eyes sees, ears listens, and without analytical power, okay, like somebody like a brain dead guy, or the child is a newborn or even a young child, when she sees, you cannot analyze. When you hear, you cannot. And then for that analytical way, even though sensory inputs are coming, we need to have the manas and buddhi to implement, take the action. What is your thoughts about that? Another one is, I have a question, follow up that one. There is an entity called unintentional blindness. Means when you're driving, when you're talking to somebody in the cell phone, and then you'll be concentrating, even though you see that when your reaction time is delayed by the time you take the action, that could be, that's one of the main reason to have the accidents. People are talking, even though they see, they'll be so, their attention is diverted from what they see. It's my thinking that I think we need to have the right manasu and then buddhi to act, take the actions.
Yeah. So when we say that the eyes are doing their job and seeing, now all the eyes do is report what, if what is out there. Now it is the job of the mind to process it, and then say, yeah, I see a tree, I see a car, I see my friends coming. All that the mind does. The eyes cannot know that the friend is coming. Hey, friend is coming, arriving is the job of the mind. And so the mind, an alert mind has to be there behind the eyes, behind the ears, no doubt about that. So therefore it has to be all in alignment. The alert mind has to be there, eyes must be functioning. Then, okay, whatever perception takes place. That's why you mentioned this unintentional blindness, etc. And that's because the mind is elsewhere. Mind is so focused, the conversation is getting serious. And now the mind is really out there. Attention has shifted from driving, focusing on the road, to somebody else, correct? So unintentional on the phone, casual conversation you can manage, but something serious, and it's not advised when you're driving, right? So yeah, what you're saying is right. That's the mind is an important part of this perception process. And what I mentioned there is that the point was that when the eyes are reporting and the mind is processing, there need not be any free will involved. You're just standing and watching something. Even though you say, I saw the mountains, I saw the eagle fly, take off from the mountain, and I saw the mother eagle pushing the baby eagle from the top of the cliff to teach it how to fly. You're saying all that. But really speaking, you're speechless. You're watching it, my God, this is going on. I saw it in National Geographic and now I can see it really. Tell me something. You did not create the eagle. You did not create any of the scenery. All the scenery is being reported to you, right? And the seeing is happening. Your choice is only in not seeing. Once your eyes are open and you're ready to accept, then your choice is only in not seeing, not in seeing actually. So that we bring that point sometimes to show that the non-doership of Atma. Yeah. Good point, Ramesh.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you.
So Vijayji, what we'll do is we'll stop now. It's already 10:30 here. So I know Venkatramanji had agreed to talk, but I think it's a bit late here. And
Monday we'll do. Monday coming
for
Monday.
Uncle also, for Venkatramanji also, it's pretty late. For me, I can sleep at 11, but for him, he goes to bed soon and rises up early also. So I think it will
We'll do. Monday we'll do.
Yeah. We'll do it on Monday. Yeah. And we'll continue any questions also on Monday. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalashahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trilokyanathaya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalashahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trilokyanathaya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhanvantaraye Amrita Kalashahastaya Sarvamaya Vinashanaya Trilokyanathaya Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Thank you.